Hello there, how are you? Hope you're keeping well as 2020 starts to trundle into the final lap. It's kind of getting towards the end of the year. We're coming up to November, December, and then 2021 when everything apparently will be fine. Don't hold your breath. I'm not entirely sure that fate operates on a normal calendar, but we will see. Now this is two parts to this video. A quick one just to talk about an event that I've got coming up in November, which is free and will be cool. It is online because everything is, but there we go. What can you do? And then I want to talk a bit about some of the feedback I had from my last video on the social dilemma. But first things first. On the 24th and the 25th of November, I am hosting my law firm, Pinsent Mason's Asia Technology Conference. Now, this is something that we do every year. Normally, it would be in person. There's very little law involved. It's speakers talking about normally non-law topics, maybe a teensy bit of law occasionally, but we try not to be boring, basically. The format is very similar to my videos, if that makes sense. Although, hey, maybe you think those are boring. Who knows? But anyway, we've got 3 speakers on each day on the 24th and the 25th, and we are talking on the topic of the tech war. Now, this is essentially about all the things that have happened in the last year that have made the technology market, the use of technology, the exploitation of technology, and the dangers of technology more of a key feature to our everyday lives. Most of the content may well depend on what happens in the US election at the moment, because some of it might be talking about all of the sanctions, the impact that is having on businesses. There'll be stuff talking about 5G, the fear of 5G, with a speaker who is coming in from, broadcasting from, I suppose, from Europe to talk about some of the challenges there. I will be talking about the winners and losers of the tech war and what I think my predictions are as we go into the next year. We've also got one of my colleagues talking about data protection. We have a guy who is awesome talking about China's cryptocurrency, the state-owned one, essentially the risks of that and what it means for how it could change the way that people do business. Because if China owns cryptocurrency and it wants people to use it, how will it go about it? All very interesting. Got some information for startups, how to survive in this rather crazy tech war market, and then some cybersecurity talk as well in terms of what are the risks. And I've got to admit, I was attacked with a pretty full-on spear phishing attack. Not so good that I didn't spot it straight away, but more sophisticated than one I'd seen for a while just last week. Was quickly reporting it to IT and warning everyone, please, if you've got something like this, do not click on anything. But anyway, we'll be talking about all of that over 2 days. So the 24th, the theme is essentially the casualties of the tech war. I will be leading that. And then on the 25th, you've got one of my colleagues, Jennifer, who is awesome, will be leading a talk about data and the tech war. And you can probably guess which talks go into which sections. Each session is an hour, 3 talks in an hour, so you can guess they're going to be pretty short. If anyone gets boring, I basically get a big stick and I pull them off so they can't speak anymore. And you'll be able to ask questions. So if you ever want to see what one of these videos looks like as if it was done live, you'll get to see it there. The talks themselves are very TED style. I was involved, or still am involved, though we've not been able to do anything for a while, with something called TEDx Wanchai, which is very cool. So my goal is, if you've ever sat through a proper law event, a lot of them can be very boring. The goal is to not be boring as well, but rather be entertaining. And maybe you'll learn something, and maybe you'll have some fun. Of course, they're just an hour each day as well, because most people, I think, have got Zoom fatigue. But anyway, I'll be avoiding all that. I will put a link to how you can register for each day. You have to register separately because they're separate video invites or whatever it's called, conference things. I'll put a link at the bottom of this video, whether you're looking at it on LinkedIn or you're looking at it on YouTube or indeed on Facebook or anywhere else. I'll put it on there. So that's all good. Hope to see you virtually there. I guess you'll see me and I might not be able to see you. Who knows? But I bought lots of kit, so it might be quite cool. And also with the tech war theme, I'm going to see if I can use some special effects. It could all go wrong, so for no reason other than that, just see how I mess up some of the production, but it'll all be good. But anyway, do register, and I'll talk about it probably a bit more in the run-up and talk about some of the speakers. But the second thing I want to talk about is the social dilemma feedback. I could feel my watch vibrating then as I started talking about it, as if it was suddenly listening to me. Paranoia is real. I had lots of feedback about basically whether people were still using social media despite knowing that their data was being used and that it could be essentially used to sell them as a product, used against them, collected by big businesses, or exploited without our knowledge. And the feedback was quite interesting. I had one guy, I won't mention any names for saving people's personal data, who said that they basically stopped using Facebook years and years ago and now avoid all social media and they have no problems at all. So that my assertion that you almost can't survive and you're forced to use these things, it doesn't work. Now, they were telling me that on LinkedIn, so I have some vague, I'm not entirely sure of some of their claims, but it's interesting to think that people can actually now survive in a non-social media world. I'm trying to think of the age demographic, whether someone a bit older, I'm not entirely sure, but maybe that is the case. Maybe if you've actually lived without it before, it's easier. I had someone else say they just don't care. They said, quite frankly, my data is being used regardless of what I do. It doesn't matter if I post it myself. It's probably being stolen by the Russians. Bit of Russia paranoia there, but then I did see this week that Russia was planning to hack the Olympics, so maybe it's valid. It is a sort of, I don't know, it's a bit like saying, well, I'm probably going to get burgled anyway, so I'll leave all my doors open. I don't know, it doesn't really make sense, but I can see the theory there saying, well, there's nothing we can do. I had another comment saying it's a completely necessary evil, that you now have to use social media. It's like the Industrial Revolution 3.0, 4.0, I don't know, I can't keep track of the numbers. But it's essentially now, it's the new way to do business and we've just got to suck it up and accept it. Someone else said that they thought that essentially companies need to be regulated, and I do agree a little bit with that. I think some of the social media outfits, some of the more data controlling, data manipulating outfits maybe can be a bit blasé about what they can and can't do with people's data, and that is a problem. Regulation is important, but I do think that regulation never really catches up with what's going on, but I accept that. However, what happens with the cool new startups who could be anywhere in the world, not mentioning, it's TikTok essentially, and they, I guess, are going to be one step ahead. The regulation may not have the resources to deal with the regulation, or may not care. They may not give a damn about the regulations in place because they're out to make money. And it does seem that quite often someone manipulating using tech can just sail outside of any regulations and just think, well, what is the problem? So I don't know how important regulation will be. But the last thing, and the thing that probably garnered the most responses, was education. And someone suggested that in schools we should actually have classes now teaching people about how to use social media, the risks of social media, how our data is used, and what you gain and what you lose in response. They likened it to having sex education classes in school. Now, I can remember the sex education classes in my school, and they were very awkward experiences indeed. So I don't know if the social media education ones would be the same thing. But I do think that is on something. I mentioned it sort of at the end of the video, thinking, well, maybe this is a good idea last time. But I do think an actual formal, but not in a boring way if possible, education on how data is used and manipulated would be very important. And I can see that coming in. In fact, to be quite honest, if I was ever to become some sort of teacher or lecturer, it's the sort of thing I would probably really enjoy doing, I remember I did a talk when social media was first getting big, and we invited loads of people into this very office, and it was basically talking about how useful it was and how good a tool it was. And I got the list of attendees before we actually started the talk, and I thought, I wonder if any of them are on Facebook, and some of them had their home addresses and everything on there. And so I was able to say it, so-and-so, obviously didn't reveal their addresses, I know where you live, and I could burgle your house knowing you're not there right now. And they were horrified. That, how could you possibly know? And I was like, well, it's publicly available on Facebook. This is when people were a lot less aware. We're talking about 8-9 years ago. It would be a fun thing to do, and I do think we need it. I do feel that, particularly now, while it feels like all news has stopped because of the US elections. Nothing really exciting is coming out in the news. The most exciting thing I really saw was that Ant Financial might be subject to US sanctions, but that was on Reuters. It was just a suggestion. We'll see. That will have massive repercussions if so, but again, let's just see what happens. I'll talk about it if it happens. But I do feel that the whole tech war thing, including restrictions on social media, including restrictions on tech companies, telecoms companies, is really changed and shaped, apart from COVID, which is the other big thing that's really shaped this year in tech, and really is making, I think, the landscape for people working in tech, whether you're a user of tech, a producer of tech, you're exploiting tech, or you're trying to get a job in tech and think of what your career could be. I really think it's become a really fast-moving, exciting, but also quite a scary place. But hey, who cares if it's a bit scary? If it's quite fun, then we will see. But anyway, that was what came about the social dilemma. I am still using social media. So as most people, the vast response, apart from the one person said they've stopped using most social media, has been to say that, yeah, they can't live without it. And I don't think we can anymore. It's a bit like when people didn't want to use the internet, and now I don't think we can live without that anymore. But it makes us, in some ways, a bit more vulnerable than we ever would be before. It means that conventional wars might be gone, and we might be stuck with a tech war. There you go, to link back into my event in November. That's 24th, 25th. But anyway, I'll be in touch again soon. What I will do, with the US election looming, I normally put one of these up every 2 weeks. So I'll put one up regardless in 2 weeks when the election may have happened. I'm trying to think if I've got my dates right. What day is it today? Yeah, it should have happened. On what the likely outcome is as a result of who wins and who loses, because the sanctions thing is really hurting and making it difficult for businesses operating here in Asia. But anyway, I'll be back soon. Do sign up for the tech conference. It will be cool and awesome. And if you've got any questions, by all means, let me know, either in the comments, message me, either on LinkedIn or YouTube or any other medium where I posted this. And I'll see you all very, very soon. Have a good rest of the week. Take care.